Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a detailed tuner upgrade. I've got this old Squier Bullet neck and it's got the Diamondback tuners, which are kind of these diagonally mounted, not really enclosed tuners. But I just thought I'd show you how you might be able to upgrade your older, cheaper style tuners to real Fender vintage style tuners. And I've got a donation from a viewer named Mike, and we're gonna make that happen today. First order of business with this tuner upgrade is to get these old tuners out of the way. Each one of them is going to pull straight up out of the hole, and there's going to be a bushing left behind, and I'll show you how to deal with that in just a minute. Now when I say there's a bushing left behind, this is what I mean. There's a metal ring that's pressed into each one of the tuner holes that has to come out, and because it's pressed in, it has to be hammered out. You can do it a couple different ways, but basically what you want to do is try to find something that's exactly the same size or close to that size of hole. I use a metal punch to do this, and all you do is put it in the hole and try to catch the lip of the bushing that's in there, and then give it a little bit of a tap, just enough to get it out. Usually they come out without much issue like that, but sometimes you have to tap all around the edges of it, but hopefully all these come out pretty smoothly. Alright, well those came out pretty easy. Now with everything out of the way, you can really tell which one of these screws would possibly show if we were going to use a set of vintage tuners on this headstock. And primarily, all of these screws will be covered except this one is completely visible. And so I've been filling some of these holes, and you'll notice that this one and these rear ones are filled, but I'll show you how to do the process on these 5 here. Essentially, I've cut up some toothpicks, and I'm using bamboo toothpicks in this case because bamboo, when it's in a maple headstock, is roughly the same color. There's no grain match if you're using bamboo. Obviously, it's got kind of a spotty, not really even a grain to it, but it's got kind of spots on it. Anyway, you cut up the toothpicks and you get them to be 3/4 of an inch tall or something like that. Then you're going to run a drill bit into each one of these holes, and you're only going to go as far as the old hole was. You're not going to make it any deeper. You can feel that point where it stops, but if you can't, then mark off your drill bit so you don't go through the face of your headstock. And you want to use a drill bit just barely bigger than the toothpick you're using. And in my case, I use numbered drills so I can get as close as possible, but you can usually do this with a common set of drill bits that goes in the 64ths range. Alright, next you'll need some wood glue. I'm going to use Tight Bond, but you can use whatever you prefer. The main thing is that you need to put wood glue in the hole and on the toothpick just so you get a good bond. I'm going to use a little scrap of a toothpick to put glue into the hole itself. Then I'm going to use my little toothpick scraps, roll them in some glue, and they're going to go right in those holes. If you have a small hammer like this, it helps to give them a tap. That's going to make sure they're all seated, and then you'll want to wipe off the excess glue and wait for them to dry. Once the glue dries, we're going to score these and snap them off. When I say score them, I mean grab a razor blade and put a little divot on each side of them down near the base. And once you've scored them, you can pretty much snap them off with your thumb, and they come off almost level with the surface. Then you'll come back in with the razor blade and clean up whatever might be left behind there. This razor blade is wrapped in tape on both ends so it doesn't hurt the finish around it. Now this will get things fairly level. We're going to put a little bit of glue on top of these things to kind of seal them, but this will get things where we want them to be to start with. Alright, once those are all cut off flush with the surface, we're going to come in with some thin super glue and touch each one of those with a little bit of a drop. So the point of this is just to seal up the end of the dowel, and we're filling any gaps that may have been left behind by the wood glue. You might have a little bit of glue sticking up when you get done with these holes, and if you do, just take a razor blade, the same one you used to score these toothpicks with, and just slice off that little mound of glue that's left behind. And you really shouldn't notice much difference in the finish after doing that, but if you do, you can get a little bit of sandpaper and clean that up. But remember, this one down here is really the only screw hole you're going to see. The rest of these are going to be hidden. Here are our new ferrules, and these are, again, stock Fender ones, so they are meant for an American made Fender, and I have to modify this hole to make it match the diameter of this, so I'll do that with a drill bit. Once the holes are modified, these are press fit just like the others, so you just want to tap them in lightly with the hammer. You can use a wood block to protect the finish if you need to, but a brass hammer does nicely. And here is the headstock with all 6 bushings installed. Now we need to flip it over and put these tuners in from the back. Now all we need to do is line these up and drill 7 holes. I find that a thick straight edge is a good thing to use to line these things up. Then you can center punch or use a pencil to mark out each one of your holes. It's a good idea to mark your drill with a piece of tape so you don't go through the headstock. Now we drop them in for the last time and we can put in the screws. And once you get the screws in here, just make sure each one of the tuners functions freely, and that'll be the end of your adjustment as long as everything is in line. I'll show you a picture of that completed job. Also, I did a little upgrade to the front of the headstock here and added a Graphtec string tree with a gold screw to match the theme that's going on here with the black logo and the gold tuners. Now, we went through the process of installing a set of vintage tuners to replace the Diamondbacks, but it's also basically the same process to install a set of sealed tuners. It's just a little bit more difficult to line them up, and they don't hide the holes that were left behind quite as well. But I do that all the time on some of my other videos, so go check those out as well. Thanks for hanging out with me for this quick tip today. I appreciate all the likes and all the comments. Check out my Amazon links in the description. Anytime you shop there, it helps out the channel, so I appreciate when you do that. Check out Hack's Guitar Hobby group on Facebook. Thanks for all the subscriptions, and I'll see you next time.